Hey guys, welcome into the Starcaster Remarks Studios. My name is Ryan Chambers. I'm the host of Starcaster Remarks. This is the after game review for game number 70 against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I really wanted to win this bad game late, but the Stars fall to the Toronto Maple Leafs by a final score of 4-3 tonight in overtime. Much better outing than the game in Toronto where the Stars basically didn't play at all, where they lost 4-0. And I would consider this a point earned rather than a point lost if you're the Dallas Stars. You got to look at it from a positive outcome here. But before we get into tonight's game summary and our special guests here for tonight, please go and thank DraftKings for being our sponsor for our podcast and also the entire Hockey Podcast Network. They allow us to do all these sort of things and do this stuff and get compensated for a little bit. So please go and use that promo code THB, and the next time you go and visit their app, their website, wherever you go and do that. And there's some good things to be betting on here in the next couple of months with the playoffs coming up, and then also with the playoffs for the NBA and all sorts of things. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in tonight's special guest tonight. This is Josh Sanders. He is the GOAT admin, because I'm just going to point that out so Sam gets mad. But he is the GOAT admin of the Jake Ottinger fan club and hockey talk group on Facebook, and he does a great job with all of stuff pertaining to the Dallas Stars. So it's not his first time on. He's a returner. I think it's like your second or third time on. I forget.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But how are you doing tonight, man? Doing okay?
Very good, man. Appreciate you having me on. Always enjoy doing this kind of stuff with you. So you shot out the invite to me a couple days ago. I obviously had to hop on. It's 12 o'clock out here on the East Coast. Doesn't matter for me. I always enjoy doing this kind of stuff with the boys. So anytime you need a guest, let me know.
Yeah, and I was actually going to point that out. I was like, yeah, you're really like fighting it for tonight. You're up at midnight over on your
You should have seen me during the West Coast games. It was
oh
brutal. Those games don't start till 10 o'clock out here for me.
Oh man,
it's tough, but
yeah. And Chris and I were really struggling.
Right.
I think it was the last game against Seattle. I was just, oh man, it was like 3 or 4 games in a course of like 6 days, and I was just like, dude, this is killing me. Can't imagine being the Stars. So
no, I'm just thankful that they won out on the West Coast. If I'm staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning for consistent losses, I would have been more annoyed. But you can live with it if it's a win. So
yeah, so it's been a while since you've been on the pod. So let me ask you, just before we even get into tonight's game summary, just your thoughts, just in general, over the Stars season. Is there, any negatives, any positives? What's your biggest thing about the Stars this season that you're either perturbed about or you're really excited about?
So one of the things that I saw about the Stars coming into the season, or over the course of the season, is they're a very streaky team, and this isn't new. This is something that they've been going through for the last few years. They go through their hot streaks where they'll rattle off 5-6 wins in a row, and then they'll go through their cold streaks where they may only pick up 2 or 3 points out of a week and a half stretch. So thankfully, right now we're in one of those hot streaks, and we're where we need to be right now going into the postseason. Obviously, tonight was a bit tough, but taking a point from a team like Toronto in the race that we're in right now is going to be huge for us. Moving forward, we're up by 2 on Vegas with 2 games in hand right now. So there have definitely been some highs and lows this year. I know that we talk frequently about our love for Bonus and for Rick Bonus and everything like that. But for all the ups and downs with the head coach, we seem to be sitting in a wild card spot right now. So, we're doing what we need to do right now. You can't look too far into the future. I'm not really focused on, all right, well, who are we playing in the first round? We need to get to the first round first. So just take it one game at a time. We got a pretty busy schedule over the next 2 weeks. So just pick up some points. Those 2 games at hand on Vegas, I think they're going to be gone by, I want to say, like next weekend. So if we can, increase that lead by the time we're hitting the last 4 or 5 games of the season, I think we'll be in a good stead. So
and that's really important. And the nice thing about the games in hand as well is that I think we're right now with the loss tonight. We still have an 80% chance of making the playoffs.
Yep.
And that's including games in hand, and this fact that the strength of the schedule, the Stars don't really have a strong schedule over the next couple of weeks, which is really nice. But there's a couple of games that I'm specifically looking at. I'm looking at Nashville. The Nashville game, that's going to be a 4-point game. That's going to be huge, especially now when you look at the standings. And then the Vegas game, assuming Vegas still tries to get in close with the Stars and take that final wild spot. But what I wanted to point out is the fact that the Stars are only 2 points out from Nashville. Nashville hasn't been playing as well as the Stars of late. So the Stars, I don't see them getting into the top 3. I just don't. It could, but I doubt it.
The Blues would have to really hit a skid,
Right?
because I think they might even have a game in hand on us right now. Either that, or we play the same amount of games, and I think we're 5 points back on them currently, or something like that.
I believe so.
And they're playing some pretty hot hockey right now. I don't see them hitting a skid, big enough for us to slide into that number 3 spot, especially with us still having to jump Nashville to get there. Honestly, if I'm Dallas, though, I mean, I said earlier, you can't really focus on, all right, who do we want to play in the first round? You just have to get to the first round. But it would be massive for the Stars to pick up that first wild card spot. If you can get into the Pacific Division side of the playoff bracket,
exactly,
get Calgary in the first round and get, LA or Edmonton or maybe Vegas in the second round, that would be so much more beneficial for Dallas than having to go through the gauntlet of Colorado and then, a Minnesota or a St. Louis before getting over to the Pacific side of the bracket. So, I mean, it's obviously, want to win as many games as possible, but, I would feel more comfortable about the Stars in the postseason if we could sneak into the Pacific side of the bracket.
Exactly. And then also hope that Nashville, assuming we take the first wild card spot, that Nashville hold on to the second. Because
correct.
Even
if them than Vegas.
Yeah. Even if Vegas gets in, even though they're the second wild card spot, since they're in the Pacific, they would go into the Pacific Division. Correct. And play in the Pacific side. So it's really got to be, perfect scenario for the Stars would be both, Nashville and the Stars make it, but the Stars get the first, Nashville gets the second. Nashville has to play Colorado in the first round. That would be, best case scenario for the Stars with their playoff hopes going deep.
I will say, though, going into the postseason, I think that you're going to see a Stars team reminiscent of what you saw tonight. Not necessarily getting outshot by the margins that they did, but it's going to be very reminiscent of the bubble team. If they want to have postseason success, they're going to have to rely heavily on their goaltending. I think that if they play teams like Colorado, faster teams like Colorado or Minnesota, I think that they have a hard time keeping up with those teams over the course of an entire game. But if their goalie can stand on their head, if we can have Ottinger and Wedgwood play the way that Hudobin played back in the bubble a couple years ago, then I think that the Stars could actually make a little bit of noise in the postseason.
Right. Well, and we're gonna go ahead and get into the game summary. I've got my fancy iPad over here with all my notes over here, so you can look at that. But it's the iPad Primitive Edition, as I call it. Yep. But chat, if you guys have any comments about tonight's game, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below, and we'll try to get to that as we go on. And Josh, if you see a comment you wanna talk about, just go for it, and I'll pull it up on the screen. So whenever you want it. Just getting into this game tonight. The Stars without a full complement of their best players tonight. Essa, Gary, and Petey are all still out, and especially Essa hurts a ton in a game like this. This is his third or fourth game in a row where he's out. And Wedgwood
I did think Harley looked really good tonight, though.
He did.
I thought he played very well tonight. Obviously, I want Lindell in the lineup, but I don't think that Harley has warranted him being a healthy scratch.
He's not as much of a hindrance. Correct. He has his bad games.
Absolutely.
But Wedgwood would also get the start over Ottinger. And I mean, what is it with Bonus starting Wedgwood against these ginormous teams? First Carolina and San Jose, meh, whatever. But
yeah,
here's your first game as a Dallas Star. Okay, go ahead and take the top team in the East, Carolina, and then go ahead and take Toronto now too. Why don't you? Go ahead.
He's getting just peppered with shots too. I mean, he's handling it. Almost 40 against Carolina. Another 38 shots tonight or something like that. I mean, it's not like he's getting easy nights or anything like that. I mean, I understand him wanting to give Ottinger breaks now and then, especially since we rode Ottinger pretty hard when Hudobin and Holtby were both out with injury and everything like that. So I get him wanting to kind of save him a bit for the postseason, but. Man, you look at the Star schedule coming up. You got, New Jersey on Saturday, Chicago on Sunday, I mean, I would have much rather seen Wedgwood get one of those starts and seen
Right?
Ottinger in net tonight. Wedgwood did great tonight. I'm not knocking Wedgwood at all, but I was
Otter's
kind
the
of
better goalie.
surprised. Yeah, exactly. I was
He's just the better
surprised
goalie.
to see Ottinger on the bench tonight against a team like Toronto.
Well, just right into the game. They're wearing their blackout jerseys again. I love the blackout jerseys. I actually forgot to go put it on before I got on here, but then I started thinking about this. Is like,
Mine's all the way over there somewhere. Yeah, there it is.
oh, there it is. You got a Heiskanen one. Mine's just a
Yep.
blank, so I need to get mine. I need to get a name on mine. I'm thinking about
Wedgwood did look
Peterson.
good in the blackout uni tonight, though, with the black pads and everything like that, and the black helmet. He did look nice
Yeah,
out there.
he did. I wonder when he's gonna get his actual helmet. I'm
I have no
excited to see it.
clue.
So we'll see. But I actually had this thought in my head. But could this jersey become like the new home jersey for the Dallas Stars? I would love it.
I like it better than our current home jerseys. I'm
I
not
do
a huge fan. I mean, I like the green of our home jerseys. I just don't like the jersey itself. It just looks kind of plain to
Meh.
me.
Yeah.
I know that they're bringing back reverse retros next year, but they're doing a different iteration of the reverse retros.
Bring the
So,
Mooters. I'm saying.
yeah, I'm saying bring me the Mooters. You bring me the Mooters. I'll be the first
I'll
person
go
to
get
buy
it.
one.
I'll go get my jersey. It's in the closet back there.
But I don't see them ever going to a full on black home jersey ever again. Not after the rebranding that they did. But I would like to see them wear this jersey more frequently than they do.
And they still wear it quite a bit too.
They do.
To be
They
totally
do.
honest.
So,
Well, let's just get into the first period here. I mean, 5 seconds in, Fox immediately hits Muzzin. Nylander would have a wraparound chance, and that was one thing that Wedgwood is really good about. He does not allow wraparound chances to get him. Paz would have a chance in the slot. Matthews would have a shot. He would be saved by Wedgwood, and then Hintz completely clobbers Matthews. 4 minutes in, there's more ozone pressure for the Leafs, but nothing big. Obviously, that would continue through the first two periods. And Harley had a shot, and Campbell had a really good save on that about 5 minutes in. And then I put this about the first 5 minutes in. You can comment on this, what you think. But I thought in the first 5 minutes of the first period, the exits out of the zone for the Stars, which has been a problem for them within the first 5 minutes, were really good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, they were spending a lot of time in their own zone, but they were playing the style they have to play to beat a team like Toronto, who has way more talent than the Stars do. So I thought they had good exits.
I would agree. I thought the Stars, I mean, they got outshot the first period, but I think the majority of the first period, especially early on, I thought they actually played pretty well. I thought that they were controlling the pace of play pretty well. I thought that they were really limiting the Leafs shots. I think the Leafs ended up shooting us like 12-9 or 13-9 or something like that in the first period. But if you look at the shots on goal that the Leafs had, they weren't really high danger chances. I thought that they did a really good job of kind of limiting, Wedgwood's work in the first period. One thing I will say, I truthfully don't understand ever starting a game without the Robertson, Pavelski, Hintz line. Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski line on the ice for the opening faceoff. You look at how well those guys do in the first 2 minutes of a game. I don't see a reason not to throw them out there. I understand the reasoning. Oh, Foxa is supposed to be the checking line and everything like that. Statistically speaking, the Hintz line is better defensively than the Foxa line is. And I would love to see those guys out there on the ice for the opening faceoffs to counter Matthews or a Marner line, as opposed to relying on Foxa, Glendening, and Raffle to do it. I thought Glendening and Raffle played well tonight. Truth be told, I didn't watch Foxa too terribly much this evening, but I didn't think that line played terrible. But like I said, I would roll with that. I would roll with our top line out there on those opening faceoffs.
Yeah, and a lot of good comments there. I thought the Foxa line played great tonight. I really thought they did. Especially defensively, they were doing their job and doing their checking well. But they had some they didn't have many shots and chances and stuff like that. But they were spending some time in the ozone, which is all you can really ask out of a fourth line.
Yeah, if Radek Foxa didn't stick out to me, if that line doesn't stick out to me over the course of a game, they're doing their job. They're not supposed to be flashy. They're not supposed to be the guys that you're like, oh, look at what they're doing on the ice. If they can fly under the radar, if they make it to where you're not noticing any mistakes that they're making on the ice, then they're having a good game.
Then they're doing their job.
They're doing their job. They're playing boring shutdown hockey, which is exactly what they're supposed to do. It's when you start noticing their mistakes, when you start paying attention to them, that it's like, all right, they're not having a great game. But tonight wasn't one of those nights. I thought they actually played decent.
Agreed, 100%. Right after that, Nemestikov would have a good shot in the slot after forcing a turnover on the forecheck, and it was a good shift by that Kiwi Raz Nemestikov line. And that's a weird conglomeration of players that I would never think I would see together, but it's worked for those three guys, and they've done okay. It's another line that's done okay. It's not like they're allowing bad chances or anything like that.
Right.
I've been purposely trying to be doing this over the past couple of weeks, Josh, but I've been trying to point out better defensive plays because I focus more on the negativity of the stuff. So I've been trying to be more positive. About 5 minutes in, there was a really good defensive play by Glendenning in the Dallas slot, and it forced the puck to go into the corner. So it was a good play by Glendenning there. Did exactly what he's supposed to do.
Yep.
At this point, the shots were 3-2 Dallas, which I was like, we're out shooting by the Toronto Maple Leafs. I was shocked, especially considering all
the last time that it happened too. So.
Yeah, exactly. After that, like 10 minutes later, it would be 7-3 Toronto. So, but. Anyway, Seguin.
I think Matthews outshot us the first two periods or something.
Yeah,
like
no
that.
joke.
Like,
I think he had like 12.
Yeah,
he had 12 shots overall, right?
Yeah.
Something insane like that.
Unreal.
But anyway, Seguin would have a chance after a broken play. Studenich runs into the Toronto post, which would lead to a very odd, weird turn of events. Everyone thought it was going to be blown down.
Yeah,
it wasn't. And play continues. The ref's even standing there right in front of the net saying, no, go. The play's continuing. And I mean, everybody stopped. Toronto and Dallas both. All the players just stopped. Yeah. And on the ensuing rush, Nylander would score the first goal of the game, and it was his 28th of the season. So, I mean, what'd you think?
As much as it sucks, I think the ref made the right call there. I think
you actually said a ref made the right call.
I know. Although this tastes like vinegar coming out of my mouth. It was horrible.
Yeah, no joke.
I think so. The reason that I think it drew so much scrutiny is because 85-90% of the time in that situation, a ref does blow the play dead without letting it, without letting it continue. I mean, that net was, kissing the boards behind it kind of thing. It was nowhere close to the pegs, but. I mean, by the rule of the league, they don't have to blow the play dead until the Stars possess the puck in that situation, and it was their call. And in that situation, I mean, they're playing it by the rule of the league. I mean, it sucks for the Stars because they ended up giving up that goal at the other end of the ice. But as much as I hate to say it was the right call.
And even after the play, they seemed to think that they were just going to continue playing. I was like, the puck went in the net.
The other thing that confused was that everybody just stopped. Like nobody did anything.
I was so confused. I was so confused. But anyway, it was a good shot by Nylander too off the rush. It was under the arm of Wedgwood there. So, but anyway, about 30 seconds later, Glendenning would get a tip that would go wide. It was a good chance by Glendenning. So that's the second time I've mentioned Glendenning in the first 10 minutes. I just realized that. And then about 2 minutes after the Nylander goal, the Stars would get a puck pursuit goal, and I think Razor called it the accidental. Absolutely fantastic way to
accurate for Seguin.
100% accurate. And Seguin scores, and it's the Seguin line again. And I love that addition of Studenich on that line.
Seguin's always needed to play with somebody with speed. When you put him, and that's why I think that's a large reason why the whole Seguin Ben, or the Ben Seguin Radulov line really has kind of fallen apart over the last year and a half. Radulov's really kind of lost a step. Ben's never been the fastest player in the world. Ben's more of a power forward, but you put Seguin with somebody like a Gurianov or a Studenich, and it really kind of opens up his game a little bit. So I really like Studenich as a compliment to Seguin on that line. I thought that they actually played really well tonight. And yeah, I mean, you saw my post on Facebook. I think I'm not sure that Seguin has actually shot a puck into the net in the last month and a half, but somehow he has like 4 or 5 goals in that time span. Like he's just in the right place at the right time. And puck can barely cross the line, or you can rip it through the back of the net. It still counts at the end of the day. So I'll take it.
That's exactly what I've been saying. Like at the beginning of the year, I was all frustrated in the fact that he was getting garbage goals, and it wasn't like Tyler, what's the word I'm thinking? Classic Tyler Seguin goals, back when he was like really, really, getting the highlight reel goals. But who cares? They're going in the net. They don't ask how you do it. They just ask how many.
I'd rather see an ugly goal than no goal at all.
Right, exactly. So the accidental, I'm going to remember that. About a minute later. Yeah, exactly. About a minute later, though, the Toronto top line was buzzing, and dude, they were scary. And then I wrote this down because Razor mentioned this, but Miro was playing really well defensively, and at that point, the shots were 7-3 in favor of Toronto. So obviously, the whole thing had flipped when it came to the shots on goal. Stars hadn't had a shot in almost, I think at that point it was about 7 minutes since they were leading 3-2 early on. So Toronto really starting to put some pressure there. I wrote about 7.5 minutes remaining in the first that the forecheck has been really good for the Stars. They're just not really getting much off of it.
Yep.
Literally 10 seconds after that, Tavares had a shot that would go wide. And then Raffl, a minute later, would finally draw the game's first power play. It would be for the Stars. It was a Lyubushkin penalty. They called it boarding. I don't really know I don't really think it was boarding. I think it was, I don't know. Did you think that was a penalty? I kind of didn't think it was a penalty.
The Lyubushkin penalty, I thought it was just.
Yeah.
I thought it was a hard hockey play.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the angle that the ref was at. I didn't see where he was standing in regards to the play itself, but I think that it looked worse than the play actually was.
Exactly. That was my exact.
I'm not going to complain about a power play. I might, because the Stars' power play has been pretty abysmal as of late. But outside of that, I'm not gonna complain too much.
And that stat to back up your argument, they were 4th best before the All-Star break. After the All-Star break, they're the 5th worst in that amount of time, in that time span. So, that's something the Stars have to figure out before they get, assuming, I need to knock on wood before, hold on. Okay, before I say anything, because they got to make the playoffs first. But assuming they make the playoffs, they got to do something about it before they get there.
And I think that, you look at the guys missing tonight. I think you're missing Gurionov and Peterson, 2 guys who should be playing in our top 6. Peterson kind of has that role currently just based on how he's playing there. And they kind of bounce up and down that lineup. But you're missing 2 guys that should be out there on your power play units as well. Given they weren't, the power play wasn't doing too phenomenal, even with them, healthy. But missing those 2 guys certainly doesn't help your power play at all either.
Yeah, and Alex Smith with a couple of good stats here. Thanks, Alex, for listening and giving us these stats here. 1 power play goal in the last 10 games. That's not going to cut it.
Nope.
And then 1 for 24 in that span, I think, as well. And I think that's pretty accurate, because I think the last time I mentioned something, it was like 1-18 or 1-20, something like that. And that was a couple of games ago. So that makes total sense. So that's something the Stars need to figure out before they get to the playoffs. But anyways, Klingberg would show some fancy moves during that power play. But there was some ozone time on the power play, but a lot of it was along the perimeter. So it looked good, and they were cycling and they were getting some stuff in, but it just wasn't getting those big time chances that you really need if you're the Dallas Stars. So, did you see anything in that first power play that you're like,
No, I agree with you. I was watching that power play and I was thinking to myself, just like, it's
okay.
Like it's not. Yay, we have zone time, but like not doing anything with it. Like we're peppering pucks and the guy's shin pads from 30 feet out, kind of thing. It's just I don't know, and I'm not sure who this R Dell guy is down here, but I appreciate the 1 for 5 on power play draws tonight. That can't happen. The Stars are the second best the second best faceoff team in the league. Unfortunately, the Leafs are the first. So it was going to be a tough night in the dots regardless. But in on the power play in the offensive zone, you got to be able to pull a couple draws back. And I think that if you start the power play off without possession, you're already putting yourself behind the 8 ball, because then you have to get back into the zone at that point. So for a team that struggles on the power play as much as the Stars do, they really needed to rely on their faceoff to be there tonight, and it wasn't there for them.
And the Stars rely a lot, especially on the power play, on faceoffs, because they have such a hard time getting into the offensive zone on the power play for some reason. And it was better tonight. The entrances were much better tonight.
They were.
But again,
Toronto in the first and third periods.
Yeah. And but Toronto is not a defensive team, so that's sort of kind of to be expected, that it's be easier to get in on them, on the power play. But they still just, that's one aspect that they fixed, but they have to continue pushing it, and they have to force chances now, whether that's more shots or maybe force some shots towards the sliders. I don't know, but that's what I just like to see more of. There's more shots on the power play.
With somebody like Pavelski, on one of those power play units, if he's in front of the net, you can really just try to throw a shot from anywhere and just see if he can get a stick on it or something like that. Kind of reminiscent of, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but that third goal. If he's in front of the net, his hand-eye coordination is phenomenal. If you're Klingberg, or if you're one of the guys manning the points, just find an opening between legs or through legs and see if you can get Pavelski to get a stick on it, or see if you can just get a bounce or something like that. But I think that they try to get too fancy with some of those passes on the power play, and it can kind of end up costing them. Either passes aren't very crisp, or they get lost in the corners, and all of a sudden puck possession becomes a puck battle, and um, it's kind of frustrating. But unfortunately, that's kind of the way the Stars go. So.
Well, hopefully it gets fixed before the playoffs. We'll have to see. So
I'm hoping their power play is as streaky as their play has been all year. It's going to cold streak right now. I'm hoping that it gets hot over the next 12 games and carries on into the postseason. So
agreed.
It's about time
100%.
It starts heating up. It's been cold for a while.
Well, moving on from there, there was an almost goal that would go behind Wedgwood, and Wedgwood just happened to fall on it at the exact right time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lucky break for the Stars with Matthews in front. So it would have been Matthews' goal. And I mean, if he had gotten that goal, it would have been a hat trick for him tonight. But thankfully, it did not go in. And then I wrote shots 11-7 Toronto at this point. And there was 2 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in the first period when that happened. And then I wrote Raffle did return to the bench. And this was from the hit that he took from Lyubushkin. And it looked like he was going to be out. And thankfully, he came back at that time. And then Nemestikov would take a penalty for tripping and put Toronto on their first power play of the game. Best power play in the NHL for obvious reasons when you've got Marner, John Tavares, Matthews, Nylander, Riley, Brody. I mean, just continue the names with these guys. It's insane. And Wedgwood would have 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 giant saves on Matthews in the dying seconds of the first period to keep this 1-1. So what was your just original thoughts just from the first period other than the power play?
Like I said, I actually thought the Stars looked pretty good up until the last probably 4 or 5 minutes of the period. That's when I thought they started kind of getting into trouble, letting Toronto dictate the pace of play a little bit. I know we were outshot, but I thought we had good zone time. I thought we got a few decent shots off onto Campbell in the first period. Ending the period on the penalty kill was tough because I mean you said it. You got Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Brody, Riley. I mean their power play is unbelievable. And you're essentially getting a full 2 minutes of it too, because you're splitting the power play. So you get 45 seconds of them at the end of the first period. They're going to be right back out there to start the second as well. So you're not getting that second unit at all from Toronto on that first power play. And I thought Wedgwood, I mean, he stood on his head to kind of keep us in the game after one. I mean, the last minute, I mean, like you said, they easily could have been up 2-1 on three different chances right there. So I thought he did a fantastic job kind of keeping us in it. And I mean, that was I held actually. I was feeling pretty good going into intermission. I thought, this is kind of where Dallas needed to be. They didn't allow Toronto to jump out to a 2-3-0 lead or anything like that. They kept the game close. They played them tough, and I thought that going into the intermission, I thought if we can kill off the first minute and a half of this this period while we're on the penalty kill, I'm like, all right, we could have a game on our hands. And then the second period happened.
And the second period happens. And just like you mentioned, the Stars take another penalty for delay a game. So it leads to a 5-on-3 power play for Toronto. And that's when I'm thinking, oh, crap, we're screwed. Yep. But Wedgwood would have another save on Matthews. And at that point, 7 shots for Matthews. And we're not even into the first minute of the second period. And he already has that many.
And I think we're sitting at like 6 at that point or something like that as a team.
Yeah, seriously. And then the Stars would kill the first one off. So they got the first one they took, and then I wrote 1 to go. And then I wrote Dallas wins the faceoff, and it forces the Maple Leafs to go back, and there's only 20 seconds remaining on the second minor penalty to continue that. And the Dallas penalty kill does its job, and then they kill the 5-on-3, which is huge considering, like we mentioned, all the players that were mentioned, and the fact that it was a 5-on-3. And that maybe had some sort of a motivation kind of turning point for the Stars there. But it wasn't big enough, but it was huge for the Stars to get that penalty kill going.
Yeah, it was, especially against Toronto. I mean, I know we've both talked about how good their power play is, but as a penalty kill, if you can kill off, a 5-on-3 against the number 1 power play team in the league, that should inspire confidence going into the rest of the game.
A lot of momentum.
And I thought that after they killed those 2 off, I was thinking, all right, they did what they needed to do, and then I thought that they would actually kind of revert back to the first half of the first period, aggressive on the forecheck. I thought in the first period, I thought that that Radulov, Kiviranta, and Studenic, I thought they were phenomenal forecheckers. I mean, Radulov was a pest the entire first period. And when you're a guy like him that's kind of lost a scoring touch over the last couple of years, if you can continue to play that way and play an aggressive forechecking style of hockey, you're still going to be useful on whatever team you're on.
State, yeah, you're going to
and
be in the lineup.
I thought he actually did very good tonight in that role. So I was expecting to see more of that in the second period, and in the second, after those penalty kills, I don't want to say the Stars turtled. They didn't have a lead. They didn't sit back. They didn't really do anything like that, but they really allowed Toronto to dictate the pace of play at that point. They had a hard time getting the puck out of their own end. They even when they could get the puck out of their own end, they couldn't really do it with control. And Toronto really jumped on that, took advantage of it. And with Toronto's speed, I mean, you have to get the puck out of your own end cleanly. Otherwise, they're going to pick it up and shove it right back down into your defensive end. So I thought that they really struggled with that in the second period after those penalties expired.
And I mean, you mentioned it with all the chances that happened after that. Brody would have a chance. He missed the net. Kiviranta for the Stars would have a chance, but Hall had a really good D play for the Maple Leafs. Marner would have a shot. Wedgwood would make the save there. And at 8 minutes into the second period, the shots are 23-8 Toronto. And I'm like, there's the classic Dallas Stars.
There it is.
There they are.
Yep.
And then I also wrote, all the time is being spent in the Stars' offensive zone, especially at the beginning of that second period.
Yeah.
And I don't know why this happened, but literally the very next thing I wrote, 10 minutes into the second, Hintz had a chance in the slot. It was a really good save by Campbell. And then about 2 minutes later, I wrote, the Stars are finally spending some ozone time in the Maple Leaf zone. And Radulov had a chance as well. So we're seeing some more chances for the Stars there. But again, still not much that they're doing offensively and not really getting goals to back up with the chances they're getting.
Right.
And then 4 minutes remaining, Raffles actually takes an elbow to the head. So the dude was not having a good game.
He was hurt. He was hurt tonight.
Yeah,
he was getting beat up.
I feel bad for him.
Yep.
And then I just wrote this down because I thought it was interesting. But 3 minutes remaining, Giordano had some fancy moves in there. Who knew that the 38?
Something's 38, 39, old.
One of that. Who knew that he had some fancy moves in there? He must feel like he has to do that to impress the young guns on the team.
Right.
With all the fancy moves they do. So, but anyways, Klinger would take a tripping penalty. It was the third power play for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then I wrote shots are 29-10 at Toronto at this point. Nylander would have a chance. It would go wide. And then Matthews with just a bomb from the center circle, and
he would Ovechkin spot.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's from the Ovechkin spot. He gets the power play goal for the Maple Leafs. They go up 2-1, and he finally gets one on his 10th shot of the night. That's insane. Yep. He gets his 55th goal of the season, and he sets the Toronto Maple Leafs record for goals in a regular season. I think the highest it had been, it was 54 at that point. So
really impressive when you consider the history of that franchise right there too. Some of the guys that have come through, for him to break that record is impressive.
I mean, yeah, Matt Sundin, Dave Andreychuk. I mean, the list goes on, and they've been around for years.
Yep.
And that's just amazing that he's able to do that. And the guy hasn't even played the full season.
No, imagine if he had played. He's got another 12 games left.
And he's missed some time too. He got suspended for a couple of the games. Yeah. So he's been hurt. He's been suspended for a couple of games, and the guy still scores 55 goals. That's insane. 17 seconds remaining in the second, though. Toronto would turn the puck over, and Hintz almost puts it away on the backhand, but he's not able to. It looked like he was trying to go between his legs to get it to Robo, but he's not able to put it away. And I was thinking, if only he could have gotten that. That would have been so big going into the second intermission.
Yep.
But nonetheless, going into the second intermission, 2-1 Toronto. But again, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay about the Stars' chances in this game. What did you think?
I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling less okay than I did at the end of the first. And it's not because we're down 2-1. It's because we're literally being outshot by one person on their team. And that's nothing. I mean, it's just one, Matthews is that unreal. And two, I mean, if you have 10 shots through 2 periods, it doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence in me going into the third. I was really kind of curious to see which team was going to come out of the tunnel in the third period. So I was a bit nervous. I didn't think that I didn't think that the Stars were going to put up, 4 goals or anything tonight. I wasn't really expecting that, although they almost did. But the fact that we're only down 2-1 at that point, considering the fact that Matthews at that point had 10 shots on goal, I would have taken that. I would have been content with that going into the third period. If you told me, hey, this is what's going to happen, I wouldn't have questioned it, and I think I'd have been okay with that. But the second period was a tough one for us for the most part.
And going into the third period, shots are 32-11 in favor of Toronto. And, I'm just like, this is just the way the Stars play. Yep. At this point, I've kind of given up the whole argument of, oh, well, they should have more shots. It really doesn't matter. The thing that matters is goals in the back of the net. And if they're taking advantage of their opportunities, then great. Now, they didn't take advantage of their opportunities, especially on the power play. We've already gotten into that. But they had some big opportunities here in the game, especially in the second. They played a lot better in the second than I thought they did in the first. And especially that Hintz opportunity at the end of the second. If really got to take advantage of that. Yeah. So, but
yeah, it was a good defensive play from Toronto there, though. Instead of trying to, get cute and try to poke the puck off a Hintz's stick, just lay the body and just bury Hintz. Don't give him the chance to get the puck between his legs. So I had to give credit there.
So in the third period, 18-12 remaining in the third period, just to get us started in the third period. Seguin with another chance in the slot. I think that's the second or third time that I mentioned his name, and I would mention his name later on in the third period as well. A minute later, Radulov would draw a penalty for the Dallas Stars. Muzzin takes a hooking call. It was not a penalty whatsoever, but whatever. The Stars would take it, and they would. I think that's their second power play of the game, second or third. And it was a really bad call by the refs, is what I wrote down. So
probably a good thing Dallas didn't score there, because you would have heard the tears from Toronto all the way down to Texas. I mean, those fans are just unreal about those kind of calls. So
biggest fan base in the NHL. So.
Yeah, something like that. Let's go with that one.
Well, during the ensuing power play, there were some good entrances into the own zone. Klinger would take a shot from the point, and I wrote, this is exactly what Dallas wants to do on their power play. 100%. Give Klingberg the puck, or give Miro the puck. Find some way to get it through all the bodies, and then either look for a tip from Pavelski or go after garbage rebound goals. Go after it. So, and it's exactly what they're doing. However, 20 seconds after I wrote that down, Colin Blackwell, who's a recent acquisition for the Toronto Maple Leafs, would have a shorthanded chance, and it was a good chance. And that just led me to freak out a little bit, because the Stars have been really bad about, the opposition getting better chances on their power plays lately. And that's just a last couple of games thing, like the last 3-ish, maybe
West Coast
4
road
games.
trip.
Yeah, exactly. The West Coast road trip. That's a good point. But towards the end of the power play, actually it was right when the power play expired, Seguin would get a chance from an impossible angle, and it was a good save by Campbell there, because there was still some daylight there where it could have gotten past him.
Oh yeah.
So, but about a minute later, 14-17 remaining, Klinger would get a goal from the low circle. It's a cross diagonal pass by Pavelski, and Klinger just kind of stood there. You know, he went to go after the puck, and he just stood down there, and then the Toronto defense lost him. And it was a great play by Klinger, especially the goal. I mean, there's no chance for Campbell. Not a chance in the world.
Nope.
And it was a beautiful pass by Pavelski.
Oh, I mean, Pavelski's vision in the offensive end is unbelievable.
Stupid.
I mean, the things that he can see on the ice, it's incredible. I mean, the dude is he is the ideal, playmaker. He can score, he can pass. I mean, he can do whatever you need him to do in the offensive end. And Klingberg, I mean, I know people love to hate on Klingberg. I'm not one of those people. I still love my boy.
Don't get it.
But he does have his defensive deficiencies. But in the offensive end, I mean, he's another one. He sees stuff happen in the offensive end before it happens, and he reads plays really well when he's in the attacking end. And I mean, like you said, I mean, he was wide open. He was standing in a circle by himself. I mean, that's and obviously that's also on Toronto as well for just kind of leaving him alone. But he saw it. I mean, he saw what was happening, and he didn't, rush back to get back to the blue line or anything. He saw that he was alone in a circle, and he got himself in a position where he could receive a pass from Pavelski and bury a one-timer in the back of the net. I think a lot of defensemen at that point, a lot of people that don't have that offensive mindset like Klingberg, they're going to see themselves, they're deep, they're down past the goal line and stuff like that. They don't have the puck, so they're scrambling to get back just in case the puck goes the other way. Klingberg's got his head up, he knows where the puck is, he knows where his teammates are, and he just gets himself open. Can't say enough about his offensive mindset. Be interesting to see what happens with him this offseason, but that's a discussion for a different time, I'm sure. So but yeah, no, I thought that was a phenomenal play by Pavelski, Robertson, and Klingberg to set that up.
And don't let me forget, I want to ask you about a possible Klingberg extension, okay? Don't let me forget at the end, and we'll get your thoughts on that. We'll finish up the game and then I'll ask you. Yeah. Give you some time to think about it. But right after that, actually, a minute later, 13-17 remaining, there was a huge save by Wedgwood on Hall, and it almost trickles through, but it doesn't go in. And another lucky break for the Stars.
It was a spine save, if I recall, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I wrote down the American Airlines Center crowd was really loud tonight. Now, I don't know if that was just because there was a lot of Toronto fans there, because there were. But just when they were singing Living on a Prayer, I was just like, dude, that's awesome. And, shout out to Shippy for being the DJ out there and putting on some awesome tracks for the Stars. Because
I think they had 3 sing-along songs tonight that I counted.
Yeah, it was that one. It was Mr. Brightside, which they always have, Mr. Brightside. Yeah. And I mean, you can't not sing along with that song.
Yep.
And then I think it was
All the Small Things.
Blink 182. Yeah, that's what I was about to say, Blink 182. So good assist by the AAC crowd tonight.
Yep.
11:38 remaining in the third. Raffle had a big hit on Colin Blackwell. The dude's only 5'9", so
it's not hard to hit him.
I say he's only. I say he's only 5'9", and I'm like 5'5". So whatever. Only 5'9", because most players it's stupid. But a little bit later on, Stars would have a turnover from Ben. It would lead to a 2-on-1, and then it was extended ozone time for the Toronto Maple Leafs there. So bad play by Ben tonight, who wasn't super noticeable, which is weird because that line was good tonight. But I think that's the first time I've mentioned his name in tonight's in all of my notes. So I mean, it's not something you want to be in my notes for, but I mean, I guess he had an okay game. I just didn't notice him very much tonight. So
yeah, and he's the kind of player that you want to see at some point. You want to notice at some point. Right. You want him to stand out and do something noticeable at some point. It's not like he's Foxa or anything like that. Who you kind of want fly under the radar and just play solid, decent hockey without being noticeable. Ben, you want to stand out. You want to know, big hit or strong on the forecheck or strong offensive play or something like that. And you're 100% right. He didn't really have any of that tonight.
And he's been good as of late. I mean, he's not being asked to be a first line player right now. And the thing that sucks, and Chris, that I talk about this all the time, is the fact he's got a $9.5 million cap hit on him. But for his role that he's got right now, which is a second line role, he's doing very well. Same thing with Sagan. He's not being asked to be a first line center right now. So he's doing really well in the role he's being asked to play. So it's just a lot of cap hit right there. That's almost $20 million in those two players. And you just like to see a little bit more, just a little bit more contribution from those two guys. But again, they're doing better. They're doing okay. And then, speaking of players who have been doing better as of late, Klingberg is a point per game player. I should have mentioned that when he scored the goal. So it's good to see those three guys going, but maybe just to get a little bit more from Sagan and Ben. If we could just get those two guys going, I mean, this team would be more of I wouldn't say a juggernaut, but they'd have more offense attached to their name than what they get credit for right now.
Right.
This is my thought.
And I've said for the last probably couple of years now, 2.5 years, Ben and Sagan are the kind of guys you want on your roster. They're not the kind of guys you want to pay over $9 million for, is the thing. I mean, they both have roles, and they both do a decent job playing their roles now. Aging vets and everything like that. They both do a decent job playing their roles, but a blind person can tell you they're not worth 9.5, 9.25, whatever they're making right now, and stuff like that. I absolutely want them on the roster and stuff like that. And I just don't see that just paying them that much money is tough. But unfortunately, both of them have no movement clause. They're not going anywhere. We're not trading them. Buying them out is irrelevant. It's pointless. You save like $700,000 over the course of 3 years for buying out Ben, and then you still have 3 years of paying him after that. Like it makes no sense to buy out either of those players. And they're still producing, just not at the level you want it. So there's no point to do it. Yeah, exactly. So
And I've seen that. I've seen that a lot from a couple of people, especially on Twitter. Well, why don't you just buy Ben now? It, I mean, he's not the Ben of the Art Ross years, but he's still producing okay.
and the
And
way
I
his
mean,
contract is structured anyway, you're still paying like $8 million a season for him for 3 years. Like,
right.
you
And
save no money.
we're kind of paying now for what he did in the past years.
Yep.
Is a way to look at it, and that's the way Nil rolls. He doesn't pay for what the player
Correct.
might do,
Correct.
which I mean, there's a whole argument with that we could get into later.
Which is
but
why Klingberg's about to see $80 million over 8 years. Kidding.
We'll get into that. I hope not. I hope not. We'll see. Riley would score from Marner later on. It make it 3-2 Toronto from a slap shot. It was just inside the pipe. It was a great shot by Riley.
Yeah,
And at that point, I'm like, okay, I think that was the nail in the coffin.
Yep.
I was thinking the game was over. 2 minutes later, Hintz would have a chance off the rush with speed. I love watching him skate. It's insane. Bunting and Hintz would kind of get in it with each other, and they take matching penalties for roughing. So it goes 4-4 for a little while. There's another big save by Wedgwood on Matthews, who continued to, even though he got 2 goals in the game tonight, he probably could have had more because Wedgwood played really well against Matthews tonight.
Yep.
Nemestikov actually has been a really good addition for the Stars, and he would actually force a turnover behind the Toronto net and almost got a chance there in front. 3 minutes remaining. Sagan had a chance off the side of the net. I thought it went in for a second. I screamed and almost woke up my children. So I was like, oh, never mind. And then my wife started to yell at me. So about 20 seconds later, Suter would throw it in front of the net. Chaos ensues. It looked like something might happen out of that. Nothing would happen out of that. But 30 seconds later, 2:23 remaining in the third, Pavelski would score off a deflection from a Suter shot that was going way wide. It was not even close. And, it ties it 3-3. And the third period ends. And then I wrote Stars earn a point, not give up a point.
Correct.
Because, I mean, they stuck in this game with this team. And, as much as I would have loved to beat Toronto and to see Steve Dangle meltdown on YouTube, I'll take the point. I'll take it.
They could have easily given up after going down 2-1. And the fact that they came out and, punched back in the third period, I thought the team actually showed some really good fight in the third. I thought, like you said, they earned a point. They didn't lose a point in overtime. I thought that was a game that, very easily could have been a 2-1 or a 3-1 loss. But they something lit a fire under them, and they were able to fight back and snag a point out of this thing. So, and then playoff race, every point counts. So can't be too upset.
Yeah. Robo would get one of the lone shots for the Stars and the overtime. It was an okay shot, but it was a good save by Campbell still.
Yep.
But Matthew puts his team on his back and he scores for the Maple Leafs. He goes around the Dallas defenders. I don't even remember who it was. He went around.
It was Sagan and Suter.
So
yeah,
that sucks.
And people are Sagan and Suter definitely took bad angles to the puck, considering how fast Matthews was going. But it's Austin Matthews. He gets a full head of steam like that. I don't know very many people in the league. They're going to be able to, get around him and stop it and prevent him from taking a shot, not without drawing a penalty. At that point, that's just a phenomenal move. You got to give credit to the guy. Got to give credit to the kid.
Yeah, that would be his second goal of the game. His 56th of the season, and he continues to
12th shot of the game too.
That's insane. That's just stupid. I mean, and we should admit this guy is from Arizona, right?
Yep.
He's from Arizona, from the Southwest. So, who would have known that the best player in the I don't know if I should say that. That's going to start some conversations. I'll say it anyway. The best player.
Scorer. I'll give him that one. Current goal scorer.
Okay, we can definitely say that. I'll say that. The best goal scorer in the NHL right now would come out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I would have never seen that. But, all right, man. I got a couple of comments, a couple of questions for you. So first, I want to get into the easier of the two ones because Ardell has got one for you here. Right. What's the dude's take on Gurianov? I'm curious.
I love Gurianov. I think that he kind of similar to Klingberg, has a few defensive deficiencies. I think his defensive deficiencies are actually overblown. If you look at his stats, he's actually slightly below average defensively. He's not. He's not absolutely
outrageously suckish.
Exactly. but the speed he plays with, the shot he has, I mean, this is a guy that if you put him in the right system, he could very easily be a 25 to 30 goal scorer every single year. He's got that kind of skill set. I think that he is probably the most misused player in the NHL currently. I think that if you look at the guys that he plays with on a consistent basis, they are not putting him on, or Bonus is not putting him on lines to cultivate his skill set and to put him in good positions to score. And I think the fact that if he so much as breathes incorrectly, he's going to be a healthy scratch is not beneficial for him at all. I think you're going to run into the same issues that you ran into with or similar issues to with Valenchushkin. I think that he's getting to the point where he's going to be timid on the ice. He's going to be hesitant to make a play because if something goes wrong, he's going right back to the press box. So I think best case scenario, I would love to see a new coach here next season, one that can utilize a more offensive style of hockey. But if I'm Guryanov and Bonus is here next year, I honestly would not be surprised to see him ask for a trade out of Dallas. I think that, I mean, he's an RFA after the season, so he's not technically under contract next year. The Stars still retain his rights, but if I'm Guryanov, I want to go to a place where I know I can thrive, and I just don't see that happening under Rick Bonus.
So, out of the current Stars players, who would you like to see him on a line with? Because I think that would be like I've mentioned that I'd like to see him, Studenich, and Petey together. And I know
those are two of the three that came to mind for me as well. The third being Sagan.
And I know none of those guys really take face-offs out of the three I said. I know Sagan is a pretty good good face-off man.
Yeah.
But still, Ardell, I didn't even see your comment when I mentioned that. Who would you play him with? Yeah, so that would be my follow-up. And
short term, I would love to see him on one of the wings for Sagan, and throw you can throw Studenich or Peterson on the other wing. Long term, I would love to see him center somebody like a Maverick Bork or a Wyatt Johnston or something like that. Somebody who can play the game a little bit more up tempo than what he's currently playing with now. I think that you put him with guys like that, and like I said, I think you've got a 25 goal scorer in your hands consistently.
With the right system, I think.
Correct.
I think you have to get rid of it.
Right.
Not in the defensive system that we've got, because obviously defense is shrined over offensive gifts here. Just saying. So
yeah.
But okay. Awesome. All right. Let me go ahead and get into what you think Klingberg is worth, and what if he resigns, which I think the likelihood is at this point is like 25% chance he resigns. That's what I think. Maybe
blank check, keys to the city. Just give it to him. I wouldn't go that far. I agree with you though. I think that if I had to put odds to it right now, I would say there's probably a 20% chance he's back here next year. I would love to see him back here next year, but I don't see him coming back.
He wants to bank, and he deserves it. He deserves to go out and get it.
He does, and I disagree with some people on this. I don't mind paying him, what he's looking for. He's looking for between 7.75 and 8.25 million per year. I don't mind paying him that. My issue comes with paying him for 8 years. I don't want to pay a 29-year-old defenseman that kind of money for 8 years. If we can find a way to pay him $8 million for 6 years, 7.75 for 6 years or something like that, I'd take that deal. I would love to do that. Unfortunately, I don't think that's what Klingberg wants. I think he's going to test the free agent market, which he should. He took a team-friendly deal 6 years ago. I mean, he's been on one of the best contracts in the league since then. If I'm him, I'm testing the free agent market as well. And I think some team out there will give him a 7-year deal worth $8 million. I think that somebody out there is going to have the cap space to do it. The only question is whether or not it's going to be a team that Klingberg wants to go to. If he's wanting to go to a contender, I'm not sure how many contenders have that much money. And if it comes down to that point, if it gets down to the point where it's, all right, he's going to take 6 years to go to a contender, I think that's where Dallas could sneak their way back into the conversation. If 6 years is what he's looking at. But like I said, I think somebody's going to be able to pay him bank. And unfortunately, I just don't see that being Dallas. Dallas could technically afford it, but it really puts them in a bind with Hintz's contract up the following offseason. Because they got to resign.
He's going to bank.
Robertson, Gurianov,
and he's going to
Ottinger
bank
this
too.
offseason.
Yeah.
And to be honest with for me, and I know this is going to be kind of a tangent with Robertson, I don't offer him. I would not. I would see if he's not willing
Bridge
to take
deal.
an 8-year deal. I
Bridge
would
deal.
want to get him on a 3-year contract worth upper 6s to 7. I mean, the more money we could save now for Hintz's contract, the better. And this sets up the Stars to when that bridge deal is up for Robertson, they would still hold his rights. That would take him up to his last year of RFA eligibility, meaning that's the point when the Stars could then give him an 8-year deal worth $8.5 million, $9 million, whatever. And it also gets us to the point where Ben's contract is off the book as well. So if the Stars can make it to that point before giving Robertson his, max extension kind of thing, I think that they would be a lot better off moving forward. Obviously, it's going to really kind of depend on what Robertson's camp wants to do as well. But I would try to lead with a 3-year deal worth upper 6s or 7.
And, just going back to Kleinberg and thinking about his extension and everything, he could argue, well, hey, you just gave 4 years and a no movement clause to a 36-year-old Ryan Suter.
Yup.
So, and I understand Jim Nill did that specifically for 2 years, mostly for the first 2 years of the deal to give him that, and they're paying for it in the last 2. But man, still that really cripples us a little bit there.
I've been hard on Suter. I hate the contract that he's on, and I've been hard on him this season. He hasn't played horrible. He's actually been a decent defenseman for us this year. I have not hated him this year at all. That being said, 3 years from now, I want out. I don't want him on the roster past the season. I said going in, I would be fine giving Suter a max 2-year contract, and when we give him 4 with a no movement clause attached to it. When they did that, I knew that Klingberg was likely gone because I knew that we probably wouldn't want to put up the money to pay for him. Yeah, and that's the part that really is kind of a kick in the gut for me, is the fact that I think Suter's contract is partially responsible for the fact that Klingberg is currently not locked up under an extension.
And I mean, it goes all the way back to just like the Alex Pietrangelo situation, when they re-signed Justin Falk to a big extension, Torrey Krug's. No, it was Justin Falk.
It was Falk.
And Petro was like, dude, what the heck? Well, that was my money.
That was his way out the door.
He got his way out the door, and hopefully that's not the case with the Stars here, but that appears to be the case for John Klingberg. Yep. Keeping my fingers crossed that he comes back though, because I mean we're really gonna miss him when he leaves.
So. I get this feeling, and I don't know why. I have no reason to think this. I have no reason to believe this. I feel like Toronto's going to find a way to move somebody like Nylander, and they're going to make room for somebody like John Klingberg.
I hate that. I would hate to see him in a freaking Maple Leaf sweater.
I don't see both Marner and Nylander on the roster next year if they get knocked out of the first round of the playoffs.
Which let's be honest. Let's be honest. That's like what a 90% chance of happening. Because they either have to play Tampa, or Florida, Carolina, or possibly Boston even.
Oh, I would love to see a Leafs Boston series. That would be so much fun to see.
It so sucks. I feel so bad for the Maple Leafs in that case. So.
Oh, man. It's always funny watching their fans implode, though.
Oh, man. It is.
It's a good time.
All right, man. Well, I think we're going to cut it off here tonight. Thank you guys, everyone, for commenting in the chat boxes down below, giving us some things to think about. Josh, thanks, man, for coming on and doing this. It's a lot more fun when there's someone else to talk to.
Thank you very much for having me, man.
Yeah, it was. I was relying on chat heavy on the game on Tuesday, and they did as good a job as they did. It's nice to have them chatting and also having you on with all of your knowledge as well. So, thanks again for coming on, man.
Anytime you need a fill-in or anytime you need you want a fourth or anything like that, let me know. I'm always willing to hop on and talk some hockey for a bit. Even those West Coast games, let me know ahead of time. I'll take a nap before the game or something like that. But I'll be good.
All right. Sounds good, man. All right. And can you tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter? Because I know you do some Twitch streams too, right?
So I do some Twitch streams as well. If you want to follow me on Twitch, it's going to be at Sosh_Jander. It's going to be my last initial, my first initial kind of flipped. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's going to be at J_SAND3RS. I will post there anytime I go live on Twitch, and I typically post throughout, hockey games and stuff like that as well. So if you want to give me a follow on either one of those sites, I would much appreciate it. And, always happy to take some chat with you guys and hang out for a bit. So,
we ought to do some, do you have NHL 22?
I do actually.
Yeah,
I can't tell you the last time I actually fired it up, but I haven't.
It's been about a week for me too. Work has been insane. So, But we ought to do something like that. But you and me, and we'll see what happens. I don't know.
I'm
Play a
down.
game or something.
I'm down. It's gonna be
All right.
ugly, but I'm down.
Yeah, we'll put something together here over the next couple of weeks or so. Maybe right before the playoffs or something like
Hey,
that.
sounds good. Hey, I'm always
Sounds
down to
good.
do playoff pods. I'll do draft pods, anything like that. So anytime you want to have me on, I enjoy you guys. So I appreciate y'all for dealing with my shenanigans for a bit.
Yep. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode too, if you will go and check out, he's an admin for the Jake Ottinger Fan Club and Hockey Talk group on Facebook. That's a fun group to be a part of. There's always some shenanigans going on in there.
And you have my word,
Absolutely
the name
love
will
it.
not change throughout the rest of the year, at least.
I
I know we change frequently, but it's staying the same for a bit.
It was Corey Perry, and then it went to Jason Robertson, and then it was like Tufty at one point when he was in.
Yep.
So it's been good. But all right, guys, we're gonna cut it off here tonight. Thanks once again to DraftKings Sportsbook for being our sponsor and for sponsoring us, and also the Hockey Podcast Network. Please go and also take a look at our merch store, StarcastStickerMarksShop.com. We got our first phase of our merch options. You guys have been asking us for it, so we went ahead and took care of that. And I think that's going to do it for us here tonight. We will catch you guys on the flip side. I got to say it because Chris and James aren't here. GG boys. We'll see you guys. What is it, Saturday? Yeah, Saturday.
So, Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday. So
back to back.
All right. And we'll see you guys later. Thanks for listening.
Peace.